Welcome back to Ordinary Guy DIY. Hey, today what we got going on, I'm going to do an oil and filter change on a 2009 GMC Sierra. It's got the 5.3 in it, and it has a 6-quart capacity. I choose to use AC Delco filters. I've had good luck with them, and I just stay with OEM. I use the Valvoline. It's a synthetic blend. I do substitute a quart of the Lucas oil stabilizer. I'm a big believer in the Lucas oil products. I've used them for years and years and have never had an issue. Just think it gives you a little bit extra protection. So I'll be putting 5 quarts of oil in and 1 quart of the Lucas. It's a pretty straightforward process, but if you're not familiar with the GMs, they have a oil life percentage on the systems. If you use your driver information center buttons, it'll show you and toggle it to the oil percentage. I'm currently at 38%. I did my last oil change at 155,000 and some change. I'm right at a little over 4,000 miles. I typically change it between 3,500 to 4,000, but it kind of got away from me a little bit on this one. But that's where I think it's a benefit to have the Lucas. I don't really trust that percentage system. I just go by the hard mileage. So, but when we're done with the oil change, I'll show you how to reset that in case you don't know. And with that, we'll get started. This engine was warmed up and I've let it cool down a little bit. I don't want to burn myself. First thing I like to do is at least pull the dipstick out a little ways, and then I pull the cap as well, just so that it gets plenty of air when you go to drain it. One of the things I like to do, I like to set the cap when you pull that off. Set it right down here by your latch. Obviously the hood won't latch with that in the way. There's enough ground clearance on this vehicle that I can get in there under it on a creeper without jacking it up. I don't have to put it on stands or ramps. You certainly can if you want to give yourself a little more room, but it has enough clearance. But you will have to go in behind the tires because of where the oil pan and the oil filter is. The things you'll need is, so the drain plug is a 15 millimeter, and then an oil filter wrench, your filter and oil, and a catch pan. There's not a lot of tools needed for this. Anybody can do an oil change. There's your drain plug right there. It's just in front of your sway bar. And the oil filter, just over here a little bit. There's your drain plug. There's your oil filter. Probably 8-9 inches away. They're close enough that you can actually drain them both. They can both be draining at the same time if you have a big enough catch pan. So the GM plugs have a little built-in rubber seal on them. So you can reuse this plug. I've used it. Well, this is the original plug to the vehicle as far as I know. And I've got 159,000, I believe, on this truck. So just inspect it, make sure there's no tears in it. You should be good to reuse it. You should be able to drain the filter and still get it in the pan. Now if you happen to have a plug that's too far away, then just temporarily put your plug back in. Put a few turns on it so that the oil isn't dripping on you, and then you just move your pan over. The plug's easier to get from the passenger side. The oil filter is easier to get from the driver's side. I do normally wear gloves with this, but I didn't put them on today. You pull your filter down, make sure that the gasket comes with it. Sometimes the gasket will stick up in the housing. Hopefully you can see that. I went ahead and pulled the oil plug. Catch pan's catching them both. One of the things I like to do, especially while those are draining, since this filter is mounted vertically, you can fill your oil filter ahead of time so that the oil circulates through the engine faster once you do start it. I really like the design of when the filters are vertical like that. Sometimes they're angled, sometimes they're completely sideways. In this case, it's totally vertical, so I can fill it up ahead of time. And normally I have an empty jug. These are 5-quart jugs. Normally I have an empty jug that I can take Lucas, pour it in, and then I can put fresh oil over the top of that and shake it up real good, because that Lucas, if you've never used it, it's pretty thick. But in this case, I'm starting with a jug that's got 2 quarts left in it. So I'll do the 2 quarts out of here, a quart of the Lucas, and then I'll do 3 out of the new jug. Fill that up, it'll soak up into the paper element. So you can kind of let it soak up. This is also a good time if your fluid's still draining, the oil's still draining down there. This is a good time, especially if your vehicle's sitting level. Check all your fluids. Check your brake fluid, power steering fluid. You can't check your transmission fluid without it running. Well, that has to be done while the vehicle is running, but you can check your coolant reservoir, your washer fluid. You know, be productive and do things while you're letting the oil drain. Once you have that, you can just take a little bit of that oil, fresh oil, and wipe the seal. I've heard some people claim that you don't want to do that anymore, and I don't really understand that. I've been doing my own oil changes for 30 years, and I have never had a single problem. I like to tear the box part of the way down, and it kind of makes a nice holder for this filter, so you can set it on the ground after you fill it. Set it down by where you're going to be working. Keeps it from tipping over. Go back underneath. Once that gasket makes contact, you can go 3/4 to a full turn. I just tried to eyeball where the label was when it made contact. A lot of people claim to just take it as hand tight as you can. That depends on the grip of your hand, I suppose. I actually do like to take the wrench. I know some people might disagree with this, but I put just maybe 1/8 of a turn. There probably is a torque spec to this. I didn't look it up to see what it is. I just used some common sense and don't go crazy tight. It's you know, I do have a 1/2 inch ratchet here, so there's quite a bit of leverage.